Yo, what's poppin' guys, Sizzyl here, and today we're taking a look at what might possibly be the least accessible mainline Nintendo game ever released. That game, of course, being The Legend of Zelda TriForce Heroes for the Nintendo 3DS. In order to truly experience this game, you not only need the game yourself and your very own 3DS, you actually need two other people who not only have a 3DS and own the game, but are also on the exact same update as you, otherwise you're not allowed to play multiplayer. And this can obviously be a big problem if you either don't have internet at the time, or if Nintendo doesn't allow you to update it through their servers, which might actually happen soon considering that they're shutting down online play for the 3DS in 2024. So the ability to install and update games through Nintendo might also be disappearing in a few years. And this goes without saying, but those two people also have to actually want to play this game with you at that exact moment, which is a pretty big ask. Now, for those of you that have played this game before, you'd also probably mention that there's an online mode, but from my testing, I wasn't able to actually find other people queued up to play it. So unless you got particularly lucky, or if you're trying to play with your friends over the internet, it isn't exactly super useful. And like I said before, Nintendo is shutting down online next year, so it's also not really going to be useful at all. That being said, this game does technically have a single player mode, but when you play single player, you effectively play as three separate people all at once by constantly swapping manually who you are controlling, which I personally found extremely annoying and a much more inferior way to experience the game from the multiplayer version. And for that exact reason, if you can't play this with multiplayer with other people, I genuinely just would not play this game, just straight up. I want to give that information out outright. With all that being said, by some miracle, I actually managed to get two of my friends in person to play through this game with. Anyway, off to what this game is. It's literally just a bunch of fun Zelda-style puzzles. It still has mini-bosses and bosses, but the focus is definitely on the open-ended puzzles that the rooms are designed with. I had a really fun time solving the many different puzzles that this game had to offer, which all revolved around the gadgets available in each separate room of each dungeon. With 8 dungeons total that have 4 levels each that all generally had 3 rooms contained within them, you have a total of 96 rooms to play through, which might not seem like a lot, but with each of these rooms taking us an average of 5 minutes to complete, the whole game would take about 8 hours to beat, which is definitely more than enough content for the game to have. As I said before, there is obviously gadgets in each room. And the many gadgets include classic returning ones like the bow, grappling hook, and boomerang, and a few that I didn't really recognize as being classics like the magic hammer, fire gloves, and water rod. And since I've already listed a majority of the gadgets, the last two are the bomb and gust jar. All the gadgets were extremely simple, with generally only one thing they could do that were all tied to a single button press. But the way that they interacted with the many different enemies, your teammates, and environmental objects like walls, levers, and torches led to some very fun and smooth gameplay along with some very interesting puzzles. Or just shooting your friends off the map as the Boo King kept seeming to do for some reason. There's also a few outfits you could equip for your character which gave you bonuses, such as increasing the power of a specific gadget like the bomb suit, making your bombs bigger and do more damage, or a more specific and random ability like the Zelda suit, increasing the chance that you found hearts to restore your health with from bushes. While the outfits were very cool as an addition, and they definitely gave you a lot of game variety, the problem is that you made them and got to equip them through items that you got by playing through each level. And since each level only gave one item, and these outfits need an average of 6 items to actually craft, and every item was a random chance drop, a lot of the time you just would not get the items you needed to actually craft your outfits, which was a really big problem, and it made it so that everyone on our team had maybe 1 or 2 separate outfits for our entire playthrough. Within the outfits, there's also one that was specifically designed to require connecting to and playing with 3 separate people, meaning that this game wasn't simply intended to be beaten by a team of 3, but actually one person connecting with like a bunch of different people they know to keep playing the game, which is absolutely insane. and it also meant that that item stayed in the store at 2 out of 3 items collected permanently throughout my playthrough. There was also the primary mechanic of your 3-man journey, where you could make a totem pole stack with your 2 teammates, which allowed you to reach higher places, damage floating enemies, and just do some other things. The music also changed when you stacked with your teammates and got more intense the more of you that were stacked, which really did wonders for building tension, as most of the time spent triple stacking in this game was during either the most intense or the last phases of boss fights, which is exactly when you'd want to hear it. And kind of as an example of that, I'm going to go play a quick clip that should hopefully showcase that. Almost every level had a unique way for you to use combinations of the gadgets, stacking, the enemies, and the environment around you in order to reach the end of the level. I had a very pleasant time working my way through the levels, and the chaos and stress during many of the more intense parts were generally an absolute blast to work through. The combination of the mechanics with a very pleasant visual style and some funny 2014 internet-style communication system built into the game, complete with its own sound effects, led to a very solid set of gaming sessions. This game also technically had a story, but there is maybe like 3 lines of dialogue that attempted to even do any world building, and they definitely didn't really sell me on anything, especially anything the Kingdom had to offer, which for a Zelda game is pretty ridiculous, as that's such a standard part of what the series has had to offer. Outside of the main story mode, there was also a versus mode and a dungeon rush mode available to play, but neither of them really fit the fun puzzle solving theme that the game had going on. They were just kind of games where you used the gadgets and kind of killed the other players and enemies, which didn't really feel all that fun beyond maybe playing them once to get the footage for this video. This game also had some pretty solid music. It was always relevant to what you were doing, such as tranquil music playing as you wander around an abandoned temple, or just fight music for basic enemies, mini-bosses, and obviously the final boss of each area having their own theme. By far the best music track in this entire game though is the title music. The title theme for this game is single-handedly what sold me on deciding to play this game over the many other games on my infinitely expanding list of games I want to play. It's simply beautiful and inspiring. I would 100% recommend listening to it for a bit after you finish watching this review. Overall, this game was a decently fun, Zelda-style co-op puzzle solver with solid music, as I've come to expect from any Nintendo game. However, I personally think that the lack of meaningful world building makes it feel like an outlier from the rest of the Zelda games in a very negative way, and keeps making it feel like a more generic game whenever I think of it. Don't get me wrong, I still had a great time playing this game, as I've said throughout this video, but I do think a lot of that over-the-top fun I kept having was just because of the 2 people I was playing with, and not really because of the specific game we were playing. I think we probably would have had that same fun with just about anything else. Therefore, I'd say this game is solid, but definitely nothing special, and I'm going to unfortunately have to rate it a 2 out of 5.